Hey everyone, and welcome to the Women in Film Project. I'm your host, Morgan Taylor. I'm an award-winning documentary filmmaker. My voice is going out there. I'm an award-winning documentary filmmaker, and I'm really excited to have with us today the cast and crew of Take Note. And so real quickly, we're going to go around the room one at a time. If you can tell me your name and your role in the film, and also any like a brief background, feel free to talk for about a minute about your background in film.
Yeah, I can kick us off. My name is Sierra Thompson, and I am the writer and director of the film Take Note. I've been writing since I was like 17, always loved writing prose and stuff, and then eventually shifted into screenwriting as I got a little bit older. Originally from Durham, North Carolina, but moved down to Atlanta to pursue my film and television production dreams. So
I'll go next. Hi, my name is Aaliyah Vasquez. I am a producer on the film, and I am also the lead actress, soon to play Miss Amalo in the film. A little bit about me: I'm originally from Miami, Florida. Then took a detour to Arizona, then took a detour to Atlanta. But I'm here now, also pursuing my acting dreams, and I'm just excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm Daniel James Isabella, a senior producer on Take Note. I am once again also a little bit of a transplant to Atlanta. I come from Michigan. I grew up in Farmington Hills, which is a suburb of Detroit. I am a somewhat experienced producer. I've done 5 feature films and a variety of shorts with my production company, Evil Twin Digital, who is very excited to partner with Take Note on this whole project. I'm a producer, but also at times do a myriad of other things because that's what it all comes down to, right? Filling in where you can and letting the creativity flow where it does. Yeah.
Hey there, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Katie Louise Mullins. I'm a co-founder of It All Media, and we're executive producers on the film Take Note. We are relatively new in the film space and are so happy to be on board with Sierra and this team. But our company is what we call a media company turned movement. And our products are stories and conversations. And this story was just something so important for us to be involved in as it's rewriting a new narrative. And so I'll let Casey introduce herself as well.
Hey there, this is Casey Lett Gordon, the other half of It All Media co-founder, also one of the executive producers on this film. Our entire company was born out of a lack of narratives, specifically around this idea of what it means to have it all, and whether you were a woman being told that, or honestly just a millennial. I feel like we all fell into that bucket. We realized that there was a lack of narratives. And so as we started on that journey almost 3 years ago now, originally via podcast, that's our other production experience, began to realize that the power of visual storytelling. And so being connected with Sierra here in Atlanta, she's been along our journey, and we're grateful now to be along hers as we bring the story and film to life.
Amazing. I love how all of your backgrounds come together to then work on this film. How did you guys all meet and come together?
yeah, that's so I'll start with, I'm looking at everybody on the screen. I'll start with our executive producers, Casey and Katie. So I'm a commercial producer full time. And at the time of when I was introduced to Casey and Katie, my boss, the president of my studio, was really impressed by their podcast and the stories that Casey was telling, which were these everyday women going to her and Casey pulling out what their story was when they didn't necessarily think that they had a story to tell. And so he was like, Sierra, you got to go and listen to this podcast. I don't know what's there, but there is something there that needs to be expanded upon. And so I ran with that. I listened to a bunch of episodes, got to know Casey's voice before I had even met her, and came up with a television pitch based on their podcast. And so we met in person for the first time. I pitched them this series idea based on the podcast in a way that we could bring these stories to life. And we all, me, Casey, Katie, we just connected on like a human level, and then also like a dream level of like we were pursuing the same thing in different ways. And as soon as we got aligned on like, okay, it's about the narratives, it's about getting these stories out there, we just continued our relationship onward. We didn't necessarily have a project we were working on, but we just started connecting every other week or so, checking in on each other as women in this industry and trying to make something. You need that kind of community. And so Casey and Katie were that for me for a while. And while they were on their journey with the podcast and everything, they ended up getting invited to Sundance this past year. And since then, I had directed a podcast live video shoot for them. So they invited me to go with them. And that's where we all kind of were like, all right, we're going to do this together. We're going to make something after coming out of that trip. So that's how I met them. I don't know, Casey, Katie, if you guys want to add to that.
No, you said it so beautifully. I would say the thing that Katie and I have carried with us is Sierra told us maybe about a month ago. She said, you all were the first two people that took me seriously at Go. And while we're, a little older than Sierra, what we told her is she was saying it from the sense of like, I had just come out of university. I was just, getting my first job doing. And what we told her was, you also were the first person that took us serious from Go. And I think, we came from more of the traditional business world into the creative space. And I think we had a lot of vulnerability and insecurity around being taken seriously, having a right to be in this space. And for us to, I think, see that in each other, I think our work is stronger because we're confident. We're not in a place of doubt or uncertainty or insecurity. We're in a place of, we believe in each other. We feel that reverberated. And we've collaborated in a number of ways, and each one brings that energy. And I think it's why we keep trying to find more ways to interact in whatever capacity through our work.
And then I do want to tell how I met Aaliyah, because it's really funny and random. So where my current office is in Atlanta, it's right across from a brewery. And I had gone to get a coffee at the bar, and there was Aaliyah working behind the bar. And I think Aaliyah helped me out, but you started talking to me. We just like kind of hit it off immediately. And I think you could tell I think we could tell we were both gay. We didn't say it at first, but we were like, okay, let's immediately connect. And then she mentioned she's an actress. I mentioned I'm a producer, and we just went down that road of like, okay, what are you working on? What am I working on? I was able to hire Aaliyah onto some of my commercial sets. And so I got to know her on that professional level and work with her, and see just how talented she was. I remember we did this like gardening shoot, which was just literally having Aaliyah stand in a garden and pretend to garden. And our director was like, oh my gosh, this Aaliyah is incredible. Like, she's doing everything right. And our clients were like so happy with how she looked on camera. And then as I've gotten to work with Aaliyah, I knew there was something special and a certain truth that she could bring to the screen. So I actually had her in the back of my mind when I was writing Take Note for the first time, because I knew she could do justice to the character in a way that was really unique and personal.
Let me just say this. Sierra has such a way of hyping people up. Like, my heart feels so happy hearing all of that. But equally, this like magic that Sierra has. Clearly, Katie and Casey, when you were speaking about how you guys met and how she made you feel and how you felt so seen and validated and empowered, she does that for me, and hopefully I can do that for her too. I feel the exact same way. I just feel like she is magical. She is insanely talented, and I want to see her work on very, very, very large platforms. And the fact that I was even roped into this, considered while you were writing it. I mean, that's a dream. That's a dream. This was not a hard sell for me. I was just like, you want me? I'll do it. I was like, yes, the answer is yes. And the story of how we met, that's exactly what happened. Yes, it was very much, she walks in, she wants the coffee, and I'm like, gay. She's like, gay. And I was like, fantastic. Let's talk. And we were friends first and foremost. We have gotten in very, very close. And since I've moved to Atlanta, I would say maybe I've made genuinely and truly 2 or 3 friends, and Sierra's one of them. And she is a part of my inner circle, and I consider her very, very close. So the fact that I could do what I love with people I love, it doesn't get any better than that. So yeah, that's how we met, and we've just been sticking by each other through each other's madness the entire time.
Absolutely. And then Daniel, this was also a random one, but a gift from the universe, because I met Daniel because I posted on Facebook, the Atlanta film community, looking for directors of photography. Specifically, like the post was like, looking for DPs, reach out, please. And Daniel sends me this email and he's like, hey, I'm not who you're looking for, but I might be who you're looking for in another capacity, which he was absolutely right about. And so we hopped on a call and then we met in person. And I was really impressed with the work that Daniel had done already. Like, I understand the kind of bootstrapness that comes with making an indie film, that comes with making a film with no budget, let alone like a low budget. And so I knew with needing a producer, I would need someone who knows how to take a small budget, but an important story and give it that same quality as a larger budget film. And that's what I knew I could trust Daniel to do after getting to know him a little bit. So yeah, that's how we all met with Daniel.
I really came in just not knowing what I was getting into, thinking, oh, this might be some student film or something. The posting said it was an LGBTQ short, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to help on that. I'll see what I can do. And now I've been embroiled in this massive thing, and I could not be happier. I am so excited for this project and everything it means, and all the people I've got to meet out of it, and all the people I will get to meet out of it. So thank you for believing in me, Sierra.
I did get a chance to read the script, and it really is an incredible story that you guys are telling. Can we talk a little bit about that in terms of the writing side, the inspiration? How did the story come to be?
Yeah, so when I wrote the story, I intentionally wanted to write something that was gonna leave people feeling really happy. I took like inspiration from Pixar shorts of like, you watch it and you feel something and maybe you cry, but like you leave the film, you leave the short feeling a sense of happiness in your heart. But at the same time, I always have something more to say in my writing, and I always want to try and make an impact and change people's perspectives or open up their perspectives to something else. So I was kind of balancing like this line of, okay, I want to write something really cute, but I also want to write something that's going to like hit people and force action and force change. So at the time, I actually did not have a huge understanding of the education system and the LGBTQ issues that were happening there. I was making a lot of assumptions, and I thought, okay, yeah, it's hard to be gay or queer in any workplace, but I imagine it is hard when you're talking about students and needing to make them feel safe, but also keeping your personal life personal and balancing that line. So the film just carried that truth. And then as later on, you realize, oh, this is a real story. This is a real situation that's happened to actual teachers and educators. But at the time of writing it, I tried to focus a lot on Lexi and Belle, who are the 2 young girls who develop a crush on one another. And I also, with my like producer brain and always in my back pocket, I wanted to write something that we could have a shot at making and producing at a low budget, which meant for me, limited dialogue and then limited extras, which is why a lot of our scenes take place early in the morning or after school. And we have only a couple scenes that are actually like in a classroom. So there's like a lot of strategy in the story, but I think that that actually aided in what I was trying to tell. So a lot of the scenes are about the looks. They're about the things that Miss Amato notices. It is from her POV, but she's watching Lexi and Belle just like us as audience members are watching Lexi and Belle. And then I was my life was maybe dramatic to say, but like my life took a different direction when my creative writing teacher told me I should pursue screenwriting. I had no idea like how much of an impact just one like offhanded comment could have on the entire course of my life. And lucky for me, it was a positive comment, because a lot of, who knows, like teachers could say things like that make a kid feel like they should keep to themselves more, make a kid feel like they shouldn't be who they are. But in most cases, teachers, their impact is positive. And so I wanted to, this was almost like a thank you to my teacher, but it's also something that I wanted to empower other teachers and people wherever you hold power to understand that power you hold, and how the smallest expression of like your true self can change someone else's life. And so I really wanted to show that power that Miss Amato had, and show her realizing it and then doing something about it. And that's what she does when she puts her picture up and shows the entire class. And then there's that happy ending with Lexi and Belle stepping into her truth and saying, no, I'm going to talk to my parents, so you can text me from now on. And so yeah, that was kind of like my thought process behind making it. It was very strategic in how I wanted to make people feel, how we were going to shoot it. And yeah.
That's awesome. And I like how you approached it as a producer as well, because that helps with the actual production process. Because sometimes I don't know, for people who are listening who are maybe aspiring screenwriters, that's a very important note to take,
It made my job a lot easier.
And I mean, there's even things like, I think I had a school bus in one scene, and Daniel was like, hey, if I don't get you a school bus, will that be okay? And I'm like, yes, yeah, like we can write that out. So I mean, for writers, like being flexible and figuring out what actually matters for the story, like that's how I took with Take Note. Like every sentence, every line has to matter that much and deliver the story without all the big, large production heavy things that cost more money. So,
and then you end up with a more simple, heartfelt piece, because it can speak for itself without all of the flashy extra things. It's awesome. As far as from the producing side, can we talk about casting? I know it's amazing that you already had Aaliyah in mind for that role, but is that something, are you already casting? Have you casted? What was the process like, even for, going through your characters? Is that something you're planning to do later?
So yeah, as of right now, since we're still in a lot of crowdfunding and stuff like that, the casting is kind of on hold. As much as we're talking to people and like trying to get ideas about things, Ellie is the only person who we've locked in any capacity. But we're really excited about that going forward, and we've already had a couple of good conversations. People have reached out just by seeing things about the film and saying, hey, I want to be a part of this. And sometimes they could be a good fit, sometimes not. I've been keeping a little list of people we need to reach out to the second our audition process begins. But especially with a piece like this, it really comes down to actors who can have chemistry with each other, which I'm an actor myself as well. Like I said, man of many hats. So I know how frustrating that can be from a audition side, but also how important that can be on screen, of you really, sometimes you click and sometimes you don't, and you just have to find people who really click in the way that we're looking for, who represent these characters in how they emote with each other. So personally, casting is one of my favorite parts of the whole process. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into it, but that's roughly where we're at right now. Sierra, I don't know if you had any other.
No, that's where we're at. And I like your point about for us, it is coming down to the chemistry. And me and DJ have talked about needing to do chemistry reads, making sure not only for Lexi and Belle, but for Aaliyah and her partner in the film, making sure that those people have a visceral connection outside of this, like that can be felt from beyond the screen and that doesn't need dialogue. Because again, it is like a limited scene, limited dialogue piece. And so needing to see the chemistry between the two girls is so important, because that's what Miss Amato sees. She does not get confirmation until towards the end of the film. And so for the young girls, we're really looking for two people who can click and, like you said, emote that chemistry. And so it's going to be a fun process of like individual auditions, and then bringing pairs together and like mixing and doing our own like match making, I guess, between the two, and trying to figure out who makes the most sense. But yeah, I can imagine for actors that would be a little frustrating, because it's not so much a matter of if you're good enough to act and can do it, but are you good enough? And then is this person good enough? And are you guys together what we need? So.
And I will say, just from my perspective here, this is going to be the first time that I will be doing chemistry reads. And I'm just so excited because I have yet to have that opportunity. It's usually like I get booked and then I go on set and I'm just like, man, I'm just hoping for the best. Hopefully this works. And it's really bad when it doesn't work. And you're just like, okay, I'll just keep doing my job, but it's not feeling organic. And I would say more often than not, unless like post does a fantastic job of adding great music that makes you feel something, you're gonna see that. You're gonna see that right away. You're gonna see that these two actors were not jiving, or there was just something that was off. So I'm so happy that we're putting in the time and the effort that is required to get this point across and to move the story along in the best way possible. It is a short and there's little dialogue. It is extremely important. So yeah, I'm excited to be a part of that whole process too, and it'll be a first for me.
That's incredible. For people who are listening who might not be familiar with the chemistry reads, is that something that in terms of the involvement of Aaliyah, is it just the feeling that you feel clicking? Is it the director saying, I can see the click? Can you talk about the process of a chemistry read?
Yeah, it really is just feeling the chemistry. And so ideally we are going to ask some people to come in person for auditions. Not everyone's going to be able to do that, so there will be some remote feeling, but even better almost if you do a remote audition, because like if you can make us feel from across a Zoom, then that's really stellar. Aaliyah, for sure, I talked a lot with Aaliyah about her needing chemistry in the sense of being a mentor or a confidant for Lexi, who is the student who she confides in. Lexi and Miss Amato, Miss Amato has been teaching her for a while. There is like a previous established relationship there as far as student to teacher. And so that would be ideal to also have Aaliyah get to read with some of the kids and see how that plays out. I will absolutely be consulting with Aaliyah on like, especially for her partner, like, did you feel that? Was this working? And then I think it will be like a collaboration of like, okay, what did Aaliyah feel? What did I see? And then is that a yes together, or is that a no together? And then when it comes to the two girls, I think that'll be more of a collaboration of me, Daniel, and our casting director, all fitting the right two together.
That's really neat process. Thanks for sharing. Are you guys filming in Atlanta?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that, whether it's location choices or like the connection to being in the South? Let's talk location.
So we are not completely locked down on the exact location that we'll be filming in. We're talking to a couple of different spots. As you can imagine, it is difficult to talk to a school that is currently in session. And now that schools are starting to get out and things like that, we're having more and more of those conversations. And we're also looking at some spots that maybe aren't actually schools in real life, but look like schools and could be dressed up like schools. So on the location side, it's still very in flux, but there are some really exciting options here. It's one of the reasons, at least for me, that I moved from Michigan to Atlanta. In Michigan, there is no culture or like concept around filmmaking. So when you want to go out and do something, people are always very excited, but they don't know what's happening. They don't have options. There aren't, obviously, we had some filmmaking in the past, but it's gone away. So it's very much here. There is a ton of people who, oh, we're just a regular school or we're just a regular building, but 6 episodes of such and such shot here. So we know what we're doing. We can talk to you. We can set things up. We have a system in place. We're registered on all these websites for filmmaking, which is a really exciting way to look at it, of everyone kind of is in on it, which is, to me, it makes the whole thing like more exciting, of instead of just like me showing up at my local library and going, hey, can you please let us film in here when you guys are closed, please? Going through the proper channels, talking with people, having those conversations. I don't know. It's an exciting place to be working in filmmaking.
No, definitely.
And I even want to put you guys on the spot, Casey, kind of our Atlanta locals, of how cool it's been, or what your thoughts are around there being more of a creative shift here in Atlanta and in Georgia overall.
Yeah, feel free if you want to.
Okay, jump in.
I've been in Atlanta now 11 years, and over the past decade, I think we all have heard around Atlanta being this production hub, and so many films being made here, so many television shows. As Daniel mentioned, we really do have a culture, like you said, when you reach out, people know what this is. You're not having to introduce them to this concept. What we have seen is, in our work especially, a lot of movies and production is made here, but not a lot of stories are from here. And that's really been something so appealing for us to be involved with from conception of this film and this idea, is that not only is it a story being wrote from somebody living here and telling these stories, and we talk a lot about redefinition of modern womanhood, modern whateverhood, but for us, womanhood in the South, there's a lot of connotation that innately comes to mind. And also, as Sierra mentioned, it's very timely. What we're seeing, I know that I believe you all are based in Florida. We're based here in Georgia. That don't say gay bills, the curriculum and book bans, like it is this perfect coinciding that not only what's happening on a very large scale in education, in policy, this is not somebody, in LA or in New York or wherever commenting on something they think is happening. This is all of us living here, watching our news, watching our local policymakers. And so in creating activations around this story, we really wanted to not only have our cast and crew, but what alignments are we making within the community to make sure that this feels authentically Atlanta through and through.
And I think the beautiful thing about Take Note is that it's really joy as a form of activism. We've really been talking about that as like in direct response to everything that's going on. This is a beautiful story sharing the truth, particularly about the LGBTQ plus community. And so we're very excited to insert joy in all of the activations that we do with this film going forward. And I think just really bringing that into the community, into life.
That's beautiful. And I agree, just even the bit of time I got to spend in the script, it's a beautiful story you guys are telling. And it's so cool that you get to tell it in Atlanta. Can we talk about the crowdfunding and essentially I'm really curious about where you guys are in the process and what that experience has been like for you.
Yeah, so I think someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is all of our first times crowdfunding. No, not Daniel's. It's my first time crowdfunding, and Aaliyah and Casey and Katie's.
Or at least a creative project. Katie's
for
done.
my own, yeah, I've been
for
in the
films. Which, so I've learned a ton in like a very short amount of time. And like having Katie, who has a lot of nonprofit and funding work, and you guys and Daniel to like help guide through this has been so necessary. I can't imagine crowdfunding alone. And I think Seed and Spark often will say like crowdfund with your friends. No one crowdfunds by yourself. And that is so, so true, because crowdfunding has felt like this merging of collective networks and community to make something that everyone wants to see. But to get to that point, we had to, one, build our producing team. So started off with me and Daniel. Shortly after included Casey and Katie. We brought on executive producers. I was pitching a ton in the early stages, just to anyone who I knew had some footing in the film industry, or I thought that would want to be a champion of the project. So with crowdfunding, you want to try and secure at least like a couple thousand, maybe ideal, as much as you can, and like pledges that haven't been like gone through, but people who are going to say, yes, when you launch your campaign, I will drop this much money into it. So there's a lot of pre-work before we even launched the campaign, and then working with Daniel to build our campaign site that holds a ton of information on our film. It holds like incentives, things that people can get if they contribute. And it also holds our promo video that we shot with our director of photography, Alex Glestrom, in It All Media's lovely, lovely library and location. So yeah, there was a ton of prep work that I'm so glad that we did, but that is essential to crowdfunding, and that you might not necessarily think about before you go and decide to hit that go button and ask people for money. So that was great, but also it was in the crowdfunding that I started to really learn and realize the importance of the film. That was when I started to engage with Georgia Equality and hear about the Don't Say Gay bill that was tabled this year, but that they're going to bring back next year, and that they were like, Take Note will be great in helping us make sure that we don't lose that fight again, because it is this continuous fight. And so learning that, and then we made a point to reach out to queer teachers over social media. So we took calls with them, not in the sense of asking for money, but in the sense of making sure we were doing this in an authentic way and that their voices were heard. It's a film for them. And so I wanted to make sure I was engaging them as soon as possible. And in that process, just hearing all over the country, teachers that are like, this has happened to me. This has happened to a friend of mine. This is happening to me right now. Over and over was just more like, gave more fire to the project of like, we need to make this happen. So yeah, that's how we got started with crowdfunding. And then I don't know, someone else wants to jump in on like what the process has been like.
I think a couple of things, knowing that, there are creators themselves listening to this. We watched Sierra, we were at Sundance in January, and I know this is a film that is sat within her for a little bit. And we came back at the end of January, and I would say by March 1st. So you look at a month, the shortest month of the year, February there, like, I think there was a mindset as it related to crowdfunding. One, call on your community, but two, progress over perfection. And I know that can become trite or something said, but it was, let me just start. And Katie and I, we, no pun intended, took note of of her speed there, of her willingness to just speak from the heart and the truth of what is this film communicating, and not have to have it every little bit be perfect. Have it good, but perfection is not the goal, especially in this stage. And the thing I've enjoyed about crowdfunding, I came from, Katie's been in this space much longer than I have. Daniel, I know you have experience. I came from the corporate world where it's these big checks. It's an all or nothing. And to be able to see the power in individual contribution, that every little bit, when you're looking at, especially a short film, we're not looking at a feature length budget, like the power of $20 or $100, or, you know, sharing it via your social channels, because that's so much collateral for us. I think it's been really invigorating. And what we love from a production perspective is we're building audience now. We're building people who cannot wait to see their dollars in play, to see how that $20 translated to film. And so I think that as we go out into the world, and, you know, this is really where the storytelling of the making of this is going to be paramount, but I love the idea that we're seeding the reception of this already.
I also want to say just one quick thing. It's something that I've realized throughout the process. Sometimes you know where the money's going to come from, but a lot of times you don't. And it is so important to just explain to people what you're doing. There is a lot of power in just telling people what you're up to, because those that align with you and care about what it is that you're doing will show up. And maybe it's not in a dollar amount, but maybe it's that sharing of what you have going on that someone else saw, and that's where the money's coming from. So yes, Casey, like you said, for creators watching this, I feel the need to emphasize that, because it's very easy to be like, oh, well, you know, I don't know who's going to contribute, and maybe they won't, but someone else will. And it's not always, yes, we need the money, obviously, but it's not always that. And sometimes it's just about spreading the word, and that could be very powerful too. And it can lead to something else that you had not anticipated. And I felt that I felt that with my own contributions to the crowdfunding. But I have really mostly just been an observer and a learner of all things throughout this entire process. Producing is new to me, and I'm just so grateful that, like I said, to be here, that Sierra just like pulled me into the group, and I was like, yes, I'm going to learn. I've learned a ton just watching Katie and Casey, DJ, everybody. And yes, Casey, you are right. It was almost from one moment to the next. I remember Sierra jumped on the phone with me early this year, and she was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I was like, I had never had a doubt, because when Sierra says she's going to do something, she will do it. But it really was just very quick. And she's like, I feel very, what was it? Energized. And after Sundance and this and that. And she's like, I'm just going to do it. And then here we are. So sometimes it is just taking that first step.
I do want to add, because Aaliyah, such good points. And like, even myself coming out of Sundance, I felt like I had a great community, a solid network, but I still had doubts around like, okay, do I have a big enough network? Do I have enough supporters? And like you said, Aaliyah, like, you have no idea until you try, and you have to ask, and you have to put yourself out there, and you are going to be told no, and not everyone you think will help is going to be able to help, but like someone else who wants to help, or like you said, it could just be a share. It could be like this unsuspecting person from your past who like now really has missed you and wants to like donate this or that. It's been full of like really pleasant surprises, and really it's truly like building audience, but also building community and understanding who's behind you and how they can help you, but later how you're going to be able to help them with ideally like what we're making, or what next opportunities we might have from making this film. So yeah.
I was gonna say too, for creators out there watching Sierra, and we have like a hat, I think that says this, but it's don't wait. Like, if you have the idea, like, don't wait. And Sierra, I've watched you be so brave in this process of putting yourself out there. Any kind of creator or artist, this is a space of complete vulnerability to put out your work into the world and then ask people to come and support it. But again, the power of community, reaching out, it's been incredible reaching out to our network. I'm so proud of everyone on this cast and crew, because it's so easy to sell and to talk about this wonderful thing that we're creating. And the response has been outstanding. through and through. And I think about at Sundance, we were actually like early. Casey had forgotten her phone and had to run back to the to our Airbnb. And Sierra and I ended up grabbing coffee with two women from California. And wouldn't you know it, but one of those women is hosting a fundraising event for Sierra in California, which is just incredible. It was a stranger, and Sierra was brave enough to tell her story and to share who she was and what she's creating, and it became accountability to go out there and actually do it. And so I think that has been the momentum of this as we're building this together, has been as much enjoyment as like the crowdfunding is hard. Like,
Yeah.
I am going to take this opportunity while we're on the crowdfunding section of the conversation to pitch to
Hit
everyone.
them, hit them.
Our crowdfunding is still live. It is still going, and it is scheduled for when this comes out. Hopefully, this is all taking place on the timeline that we think. But we will be having a matching campaign where a new executive producer who has just joined the film has offered to do a matching campaign over this next weekend. So if you want to donate to this film, if you want it to happen, that would be May 26th, 27th, and 28th. If you want to contribute to this film, and if you want your dollars to go even further, they will be 1-for-1 matched throughout the weekend of May 26th, 27th, and 28th. So please reach out. We are on Seed and Spark under Take Note. It's Sierra, do you have the
I do.
URL memorized?
seedandspark.com/take-note. And I actually messed that up. It's seedandspark.com/fund/take-note.
I can confirm though, if you just search in the search bar on Seed and Spark Take Note, it is the only one there. So for those of us that don't have a URL memorized, it works just as well.
You can also reach it through finding us on Instagram or on TikTok. And we're working on our other social media platforms, getting those up and running, but it should be available anywhere you are on social media. Look for Take Note Film, and you'll be able to get redirected to our Seed and Spark if you want to contribute. Even if you are not financially able to contribute at this time, give the Seed and Spark page a follow, and also follow us on our other social medias, but especially following us on Seed and Spark. That shows the platform that there is something going on here, that they should promote us in their algorithm. And Seed and Spark, I don't think they're cagey about this, does provide different bonuses basically for the amount of followers that you can find. So we would really appreciate anyone who's out there. If you're listening, if you want to take just a second, even if you can't contribute, just give us a follow on Seed and Spark and on any other social media platforms if you're interested in hearing more about the film.
And while we're talking funding, we're also going to give a plug to a private Atlanta fundraiser. We had decided prior to this that we were going to keep it within our network, but we have a handful of seats left and would love to open it to your listenership in this community here. For anybody listening that is in Atlanta or has a network in Atlanta, we are hosting a private before the screen event with the casting crew, with local policymakers. We may have a celebrity or two. This is Atlanta joining us, but this is going to be, the tickets are available on Eventbrite. Again, if you go to any of our socials, any of the Take Note socials, if you go to It All Media's socials, you will see links to the Eventbrite. So please come join us. It's going to be an incredible night. And I think that the experience within itself will be a sampling of what you can expect as this film comes to life and we begin to do activations through next year to distribute it this to audiences.
Incredible. So yes, everyone go and check out on Seed and Spark. I love what you all have said, and Aaliyah, what you said specifically about sometimes it's not just like, oh, if you can't give financially, there's something that you can do to help the story reach more people and to get it in front of people who can contribute. So give them a follow and be involved in what everyone here is doing. This has been a fantastic conversation. Before we wrap up though, I have one more question, which is essentially your vision for the overall impact that this film can have, because you have a very powerful story. Just if you want to take a few minutes to close us out by sharing what you think this film can do.
Yeah, I can kick us off. So I hope this film can get to the youth and can get to the LGBTQ community, because ultimately that's who I made it for. And I hope that it can inspire them to continue to stand in their truths and to encourage that out of everyone around them. Because as we know, our youth is already super amped up and know how to be who they are. And this film is like, yes, keep doing that. We're right there with you. You're doing the right things despite everything you might be hearing in the world and in our country about policies that are saying, no, don't say this or don't do that. Stick to this. Don't read that book. This film is meant to encourage and inspire and to just remind us that, yes, like who you are is perfect as is. That's what I hope that the film's impact can have on everyone who watches it.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for being with me on this podcast and for sharing your story. I'm so excited to see you guys keep going from the place you are now to production to seeing the film. So if you everybody, again, go follow on Seed and Spark. And what's the Instagram for your main film location for people to stay in touch with you guys?
Take Note Film on all platforms. It's just going to be Take Note Film, all one word.
Perfect. Everyone go follow Take Note Film, and we'll see you guys in the next conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, take care.